my company makes over $100,000 a week at this point, yet I strangely only work about 2 hours a day, and most of it is done through my broken iPhone. Sometimes I wake up to just kind of get to work, only to realize that there's really nothing to do for me. My Trello list is empty. Money has just come in while I slept. I just read a bunch of positive updates from my staff, and I'm like, guess I'll hit the gym. Now, that's the reality of a well-run company with a well-trained staff and a bunch of epic AI systems that make yours and your staff's life easier. Now, do I have periods in my business where I have 12-hour workdays for multiple days in a row? Absolutely, but these are usually one-time hustle seasons where I'm working on a new project or pushing a company through its next milestone, but my everyday operations are mostly automated. So, ask yourself this. Whenever you go on vacation, is your business not working the way it should be while you're gone, right? And is a bunch of work just kind of like piling up, waiting for you to get back? Or is it actually working just as well and potentially even hitting record months while you're gone? So in this video here, I'm breaking down the structure and the processes within my company that allow me to do things like visit the Italian Amalfi Coast with my girlfriend or go on a spontaneous Dubai trip while my business literally cracked another record month in the background. You'll see how you can build a completely remote online operation and still make $500,000 a month in revenue. I'm also going to show you our communication tricks that allow everything to go smoothly even without me, and you'll also learn my secrets to hiring A players, training staff on autopilot, and building an epic company culture where everybody goes above and beyond, even when you're not looking. So that being said, I want to crack into it with this little screen share to show you kind of like my structure within my company. So it's my company, that's why I put myself arrogantly at the top here. And then down below, I kind of have like the executive layer, which is exec number 1 is my CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, exec 2 is my Chief Sales Officer, and then executive 3 is my Chief Delivery Officer. Now I have a digital coaching and consulting business, so these are kind of like the 3 most important roles within my company. Now, I have meetings with these folks once a week. With the CMO and the CSO, I have a group meeting between the 3 of us, and with the CDO, I have a separate one-on-one meeting. So these are kind of like the people that I'm in touch with mostly over WhatsApp and via one weekly Zoom meeting. Now, these folks by themselves, separately, have daily meetings with their senior and their junior staff, meaning the Chief Sales Officer has daily meetings with the entire sales staff. Now, within the sales staff, there are seniors, meaning those are folks that have been with the company quite a long time. They're fully ramped up. They even have a little bit of a mentor / role model role within the company that they have with the juniors. And of course, there's a bunch of juniors, which are, the newly hired people that are not fully ramped up yet. So those folks have daily meetings with their seniors and their juniors. And then below that, I mean, I don't want this to be like too much of a traditional hierarchy, but like below that, we have a lot of VAs that do some of the smaller tasks. They work autonomously. They're not necessarily part of a team per se. They don't need to show up to weekly meetings, daily meetings. They don't have KPIs whatsoever. They just kind of like do their small tasks like customer support for the emails and, uploading videos, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, we have a bunch of AI systems. Whereas with the AI systems, that's kind of like throughout all the layers. My CMO uses AI, I use AI, my CSO uses AI, as well as the seniors and the juniors. We're gonna go a little bit more into what exact AI systems we're using and for what tasks in a minute here later in this video. Now, how do we communicate with each other? So now that you're aware of the structure, the communication per se is relatively straightforward. We have weekly meetings with the execs. Those are the 4 aforementioned meetings. And then we use Slack and WhatsApp. Now, Slack we use for end-of-day reports, for any non-urgent matters, announcements where we kind of want to announce the entire team and make sure it doesn't go under, and longer discussions within a thread that goes back and forth about, for example, a specific client that needs extra help, that we have everything in one place there. Now, in Slack also goes a lot of the AI automations. For example, we have an AI, a coaching AI chat system that helps our coaches coach our clients, and the AI coach is actually connected on the back end with all my training courses. Every single video I've ever created for a training is patched into this AI, so whenever one of my coaches isn't 100% sure about what to answer or wants more details and or wants to know the exact place and timestamp of a specific video to send that as a resource to a client, they will use that chat AI. And that chat AI input and output is all done via Slack, because with that we have a Zapier integration, and it actually connects to notes for each and every client. So each and every client that we have, regardless of what layer, what tier of the program, of our high ticket programs they purchased, each and every client has like a client file, so to speak. And into that file goes the manual input of their one-on-one coach, of the coaching team, anything we need to know, anything that's happened with this client, anything that we need to be aware of, plus also all the inputs that have done about this client in the chat AI. So it's all kind of working together. It's almost like the AI is a separate staff member that is also very much hands-on included with the client delivery. That's just one example of what we do with Slack. All our AI Zapiers, all our Zapier integrations go into Slack to make sure it's all there in one place. On top of that, we use WhatsApp. WhatsApp is kind of like what I'm using at the executive layer 90% of the time. This is everything voice messages. I love voice messages. You can double speed them nowadays. God, thank you for that awesome feature, by the way. And it just helps me really quickly manage everything I need to know with all the nuances. Much faster than typing on a keyboard, and definitely much faster than typing with your thumbs. This is also where I'm personally connected with my one-on-one clients. A lot of times they have a little bit more nuanced questions. I leave them voice messages and so on and so forth. That's where I'm in touch with all my execs. That's where most of the decision making is done. All the partners, same spiel here. Anything that's urgent, all our staff is trained by internal trainings to reach out to me with all the context if there is an urgent matter that needs to be attended to, as opposed to Slack, for example. And no, I don't separate personal and clients in my WhatsApp. That's just a personal preference. I know some of my clients, they have 2 different phones, 2 different WhatsApps. I personally like everything in one go. So I have my mom there, I have my girlfriend there, my brother, and my clients, and my staff, and my execs member, and my business partners. Everything is on WhatsApp. I just like it much better. It's all in one place, but it's just personal preference. Additionally to that, we have daily meetings, like I said, that each and every executive has with all their staff members in one group meeting. These meetings are taking place Monday through Friday, always at the same time. I can jump into these meetings whenever I need to. So if I want to talk to the sales staff, I want to update them on a goal, I want to motivate them, or if I want to do the same with the coaching team, I want to inform them about some new changes. I'm literally like, oh cool, meeting is in an hour, let me hop on, let me take over for a couple of minutes, hijack the meeting, and kind of need to communicate what I need to communicate. That's the communication. It's relatively straightforward, and it's by no means rocket science. Now, to the hiring specifically, and this is a question I get so many times, how do I hire A players? How do I get better staff? I see this all the time, by the way, with beginners that are coming on board with us. They're at the 50, 100K mark, and they usually have a team that is full of B players. They have a bunch of VAs where they should have full-time employees. They have a bunch of full-time employees where it should be enough to have just VAs on that. And a lot of times I hear, Max, like your staff is always super on point. They're well-trained, they're professional. How the hell do I do that? Well, it all starts with the hiring process. General things you need to understand about hiring is you always want to be hiring. One of the biggest mistakes you can make at your stage where you need to build a team is you only hire when you need someone. The problem with that is, number one, there's at least always a delay of 3 to 4 weeks. It takes about 3 to 4 weeks to find someone good depending on the position. Now, so if you need someone today, it means you already have a month where you lose out until you have that position covered. Number two, you're usually under a lot of pressure to get that damn position covered, so you're probably having blind spots you're not aware of, you're overlooking red flags, or you're settling for a B player whereas you should have an A player. Now, this gives you the illusion of saving time, when in reality, and this is kind of the crazy part, you're losing time because you're hiring a B player that costs you a lot of time and effort, and then you're trying to hire an A player, and until the position is actually covered, it takes you much longer as if you hire an A player right away, or at least someone that has the potential to become an A player. And the way to do that is to just always be hiring, because you're just going to need to have a lot of volume, and the best way to get a lot of volume is to always be hiring. Now, in the beginning, this is only going to be relevant for key positions such as setters, closers, your first or second delivery assistant, and coaches. Over time, as you then move on to having executives in your company, you will want the executive to take over all the hiring duties, and you just kind of have the final interview, or at least the final say about yes or no. Later on, the next stage is, once your executives have already a huge team, you can actually have specific HR personnel that just full-time talks to new people as you're scaling your company. That's kind of what we're doing right now. We're at over 500K a month. In fact, this month we're pacing at around 650K already, so we're growing relatively quickly. I mean, hell, by the time this video goes up, we're probably already past that stage as well. So we're in a very aggressive expansion mode right now, which means we're hiring 1 to 2 key staff per week in an ideal scenario, which means it already takes our seniors quite a lot of time in their daily schedule. What you need to understand also is you want to be slow to hire, quick to fire. This is a very, you hear this over and over again, but it's very, 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 very true. The longer and more detailed your hiring process is, the less pain you will experience later with shitty staff that is unqualified to be in that position. So be slow to hire. We have usually around 3 interviews for key positions. That's already a lot more interviews than most people have. And we're also quick to fire, meaning if someone fucks up once, that's fine, you're a human being, but if they make mistakes over and over again, if they make it more than once, if there's no pattern of getting better, no pattern of understanding feedback, we have a very detailed hiring procedure about that. We'll talk about this later, but then that person just needs to go. And we're very friendly with the firing process too. Usually we give them a month beforehand. We usually pay them an entire month, even if they cannot work actively in that position anymore, just so they have a month to find something else. Last but not least, you want to replace uncertainty on whether someone is good or not, and you're not sure, with just KPIs and projections. In most positions, there's no gut feeling, there's no necessity for, I'm not sure if this person performs or not. If you have KPIs that are clearly defined, clear projections, especially when it comes to a sales team and your coaching delivery team, you'll have numbers, and numbers don't lie. It's that simple. And if someone doesn't hit these numbers, at least multiple times in a row, then they need to go. If they don't hit them once, that's fine. Obviously, we're human beings. But you can see here, the general gist is stop trying to gauge or have feelings for whether or not someone performs. It's all about the numbers. So define those numbers properly. Specifics about hiring, very simple. Number one, you need volume. Like I said before, you need to just hire a lot of people. Don't just interview 3 and hire the best. Like, the chances of that person not being qualified is very, very high. And in fact, we actually calculated once what our hiring ratio is. It's less than 1%, meaning less than 1% of people we talk to, we actually hire. That means you're gonna need a lot of volume, and in order to get a lot of volume, you need to be hiring every day. I know you hate me for saying this, and no, there's no better way to do it. AI, yes, but right now, if you need humans, talk to a lot of people every single day. Scorecards. Scorecards are an incredibly helpful tool when it comes to hiring. A scorecard is basically a document that lines out everything there is to know about the position. What the position entails, what is generally expected from the position, any sort of context that is relevant for that position. I'm going to give you an example as a sales staff. In that scorecard is written, your lead flow, your average cost per lead, your average order value per lead, your average cost per call, how many leads can be expected for each and every rep, inbound, outbound, what exact day-to-day activities they have to do, what does your end-of-day procedure look like, what is the on-track earnings estimated on your company's average closing rate, show rate, etc. You basically want to have all that information in a scorecard laid out. It's usually 2-3 pages long. You can create a Loom video of you kind of going through that, and then you send it out to applicants that have shown promise so far. We don't share the scorecard with any applicant. Usually an applicant applies, and then we either have them literally fill out an application, or we shoot them back a DM with a couple preliminary questions that are all of our must-have criteria. Hey, do you speak English properly? Are you full-time available? Are you in this time zone? Do you have experience in XYZ field? And only if they then confirm positively that they have all these must-have criteria, then we send them over the scorecard, which basically says, hey, here's all the information about the position. Go through it properly, focus on it, let me know if this is still something that you're looking for. What you're doing with that is you're sifting out non-compatible candidates right away. Non-compatible in terms of they don't have the exact criteria that are must-haves for you, and conversely, also, they are interested in the position, in the payment, etc., and everything. Because if you don't do that, the last thing you want to do is you want to hop on an interview, you have a great interview, everything goes well, but then it turns out they're not available full-time, or they're not in the time zone that you need to be, or they're not okay with the payment, right? So you've wasted all your time there just for the whole thing to fault at a simple thing that cannot be changed. Maybe they're not available, like I said, or maybe they're not okay with the payment. So ideally, you have all the must-have criteria already checkboxed off in their eyes, and vice versa. And then the interview is for you to check on whether or not they're a culture fit, whether or not they can take feedback, and all the other things that are specifically important for that position. That's why we have a 3-interview process. A 3-interview process is usually interview number 1, where we test the skill set that is required for that position. If it's a closer or a setter, we have a mock call. If it's a DM appointment setter, I mean, nowadays we've replaced this with AI, but back in the days we have a mock conversation. If this is a coach that is just supposed to work in your company, we give them a post from one of our clients and they have to give feedback on that, and just to see if generally they can do the thing that they'll be mostly doing. That's what we do in interview one. Now, at the end of interview one, we give them specific feedback on that. We tell them, hey, you didn't do this properly. You have to do it like this next time. And we specifically, openly tell them, hey, we're going to check if you implement all that feedback on our second interview. And then the second interview, we do another, whether mock call, mock conversation, mock client feedback. And we specifically put a scenario on that shows whether or not the candidate can implement the feedback they have gotten in the call, in the interview prior to that. You'll be surprised how many people will not be able to do that, because you might listen to this and you're like, what do you mean? Like, if I give them feedback and I tell them in advance that we're going to test them on that feedback, of course they're going to get it. No, they won't. About 60 to 70% of people will not, and thank you for the great feedback, and then make the exact same mistake again. We don't need such people in our company because we train them very hard. We put a lot of time and effort and energy resources into them. So if they cannot implement feedback, it's just a waste of my time, of our time, of everybody's time. So that's what we're testing from the from the first to the second interview. And then if they still rock that, the third interview is basically, where we ask a little bit deeper about their goals. We manage expectations. We tell them that they have the position if they're still qualified, and then we usually give them 24 hours to think about it if this is really something that they want to go all in over the next 12 to 24 months. And we give them everything transparently. We're going to tell them how much everybody works, how hardcore we are about our goals, and if they really want this, welcome aboard. If not, that's fine too. We'll stay friends and everything. If you want to dive deeper on this, I know this was a lot of information now kind of clumped together all at once. I made a specific video on that on the Max Torna podcast. It was a solo podcast. You can check that out. I'm going to show it on screen right now. It's just called How to Build a Sales Team of A Players on the Max Torna podcast. It's a 2-hour deep dive where I'm going much, much deeper into interview process, scorecards, etc. Now, like I mentioned, this is specifically for sales staff, but the information there can easily be extrapolated to any sort of other very key position within your company. Let's talk about training. Training, aka cloning, as I call it. I call it cloning because so many business owners at your level, when you're making 50 to 100K a month, you probably are of the opinion of only you can do things properly, all the tasks should ideally be done by a clone of yourself. You can actually circumvent that by quote-unquote cloning yourself and creating an automated internal training area. That's what I've done for pretty much every single position that I've ever inherited in my own company. Nowadays, I have my executives even create internal trainings for the people underneath them. And the way that works is fairly straightforward. How to clone yourself for every task within your company. There's basically 3 stages and then a 4th one on top of that. The 3 stages are testing. So whenever there's a new task, let's say, for example, onboarding one-on-one clients, you need a test, or one of your employees needs to test how that works, what are sort of the pitfalls, what are the most important things to focus on, what's kind of a way to do this task properly so everybody's happy. Once that is figured out, you can create an SOP, as a standard operating procedure for this specific task, where you just lay out bullet points. Step 1, you introduce yourself. Step 2, you follow the script. Step 3, if there's any questions, here's the FAQ sheet. Step 4, you put all the information to the CRM, and so on and so forth, just as an example. Once you have the SOP, you create an internal training. These are usually just Loom screen recording videos where you manage expectations, you talk about why this task is important, why we're doing it the way we're doing it, and then you lay out click by click, step by step how that task goes. Now, you give that internal training to anybody that is new, they watch that internal training and they're instantly trained. Now, of course, over time, that's why there's a 4th step, you're gonna make adjustments, You're gonna learn new things, you're gonna understand that, certain changes are necessary. You can simply change the SOP and, if necessary, update your internal training. Now, over time, you're building sort of like a library of your internal trainings, like a vault, and you'll have internal trainings for every single procedure in your entire company. And I really mean every single procedure. I'm talking about things like how to communicate on Slack, how to send a voice message to your executives. The way we send our voice messages, if anybody underneath the executive layer sends an executive a voice message, they have to write in writing whether it's urgent or not. Because if you just see a voice message pop up and it's important for you, you're not sure whether it's important or not, it's just gonna mess with your day-to-day operations. So if it says not urgent, you know you can reply to it later. These are small, tiny things, just as an example, that are included in our internal trainings. All the way to all the scripts, how the CRM works, how to use the auto dialer of your sales staff. Every single procedure you can think of, how to reply to emails, is all done via internal training. The cool thing about that is, if this is properly set up, you're going to have a situation where you can get new people in. They're automatically going to be trained within the first week. They're just going to watch all the internal trainings, and they're going to be pretty much ready to go around 80 to 90%. And then there's only, skill honing, sharpening the sword kind of stuff that they will just get with experience. We have internal training for all the general things that are relevant for everybody. That's communication, how the company's structured, what are our values, and so on and so forth. And then we have internal trainings that are specifically for each and every position. Ideally, once you're done with all this and once this is set up, there's this beautiful analogy that I call the defending Zion analogy. If you remember The Matrix Reloaded, that's the second part in the Matrix trilogy, there's this great scene where the humans are defending Zion from the machines. And the humans have these big mech robots that have these machine guns on both hands, and they're just firing all the time. And in that little mech robot sits a human, and that human is controlling with its inputs the robot. And if something happens to that human, maybe they die or they get ripped out, there's just another human that will instantly be put into that mech robot, and the mech robot boots up within 30 seconds and keeps shooting. That's kind of what you're doing with your internal trainings. If something happens to one of your employees, maybe they quit, maybe they get fired, maybe they're incapacitated over multiple weeks, you get in a new person, you sit them down in that robot, and they're basically continuing to firing and defending your company from all the dangers that are outside there. So this is kind of how you can imagine that. We also have an AI. Now this is interesting because we're trying to automate everything more and more and to try to support our staff as much as possible with AI. So we have currently in the MVP stage an AI training for our sales reps, meaning the AI is directly connected to all of our Zoom recordings. It pulls the transcripts from Zoom, and then it looks at it through the lens of 5 to 15 specific criterias based on that transcript. It basically says, rate from 1 to 0, from 1 to 10, how well has the rapport been going on in the sales call? How well has the product been laid out to the client? How well have all the objections been handled on a scale of 1 to 10? And then it rates this. And what it then does is, if something dips below a certain rating, let's say, for example, the rapport is only a 4 out of 10, it automatically connects to our internal training for our sales staff, which is very detailed, very vast, very well encompassed. And it automatically pulls up the relevant information for rapport and sends it to the rep. And the rep says, oh, hey, my call from yesterday only got a 4 out of 10 rapport. Okay, cool. Here's the internal training videos already for me that I can rewatch in order to get the rapport handled properly. And then the AI checks if the next call is a 6 out of 10, a 4 out of 10, or a 10 out of 10. And, you can continue like that. That's the sales rep training. We have the same with the AI coaches training. That's the AI that I mentioned already earlier. And then we, of course, have AI tools for editing and writing content. I'm right now writing on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We have 3 accounts on Instagram. And I'm writing a lot, and it's all done just with AI. I have AI systems. I have my own custom GPTs to which all of our clients have access to, whether you're just a beginner client or an advanced scaling client of ours. It just makes your social media posting so much more easier, so much more easier. It makes it easier, okay? And what it does is it adjusts to your tone, to your voice. It doesn't sound like the generic ChatGPT bullshit, mind you. So this is very, very key. Same goes for all the AI editing. We have AIs that repurpose all my long-form content or short-form content and so on and so forth. Same goes for reposting all the content across multiple platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts. So there's a lot of great AI systems. We use all those ourselves. Some of them are built in-house. Some of those are just widely used general AI systems that we've just kind of figured out how to use them. And of course, we pass all that knowledge on to our clients and their staff. Last but not least, I know it's a long-winded video here, but pay attention because it's really good. Company culture. Company culture is actually kind of like bread and meat that goes on in the background. This is like the soil within where all your internal trainings and all the SOPs are growing in. Company culture is way more important later on as you're scaling beyond the $250,000 a month mark, as it might be right now. You know, when you're making 50 to 100K, it's all good. You don't necessarily need to have company values, but later on, as you're getting, you know, more than 20 staff members, this is very key. I'm not going to go through the entire company culture. Obviously, that warrants an entire video by itself, but I'm going to give you a couple most important points, sort of the 20-80 rule. We have a wins group on WhatsApp where we're generally posting client wins and company wins all the time. This is key, especially if you're selling very hard, if you're running cold traffic ads, and if you generally want to have a team of killers that are just getting a lot of clients on board. What happens a lot there is, you know, as you're getting more and more clients on board, maybe some people start complaining, you know, maybe someone might even request a refund. And with those type of things, those are usually more prevalent than the positive things. So what can happen is if there's, for example, a refund request back to back twice in a row in a week, your sales reps might think like, oh my God, like what we're selling, like if there's 2 people requesting a refund, are we not doing the right thing? Is our program not good, right? Because those folks, for example, might not have that much insight into the delivery side of things. But if you have a wins group where you're daily posting, hey, this client made money, this client is grateful, look at the positive review just we got here, all that just reinforces the idea, hey, what we're doing is actually really awesome and it changes people's lives for the better. That, of course, helps your sales staff perform better, it helps them pitch harder, and everybody has a good time, and it increases the overall buy-in. We do this with everything, not just with the specific example, but we do this with all kinds of wins, even social media wins, positive comments. Hey, this video changed my life, Max. Hey, this video about steering your company from your smartphone, Max, was really good. Drop a comment below. It will literally land in our wins group. So every single day we have dozens of wins that are being posted in here. It's really, really good for team morale. On top of that, we have over-communication, meaning we have specific internal training on the fact that we always want to over-communicate. We always want to over-explain, and whenever we're communicating with each other, we want to give full context in full sentences. A lot of times when things are stressful, when there's a lot to do, people tend to just, they write in like one sentence answers. They write things very quickly because they think, oh, I don't have time to elaborate on that. Not for us. It's literally part of our company culture that we always over-communicate at all times. You want to live by example, you as a business owner. One thing that I hear a lot from specifically staff that comes to us that has worked in the past with some of our competitors, oftentimes we ask them, what made you leave your previous position? Because maybe I've heard about this competitor, I thought they're doing well. What we get most of the time is actually they say things like, I never felt like the CEO or the owner cared about me. They never talked to me. Every time I reached out to them for help, they just told me to fuck off. They ignored me. There was no communication whatsoever. I just felt like they didn't care. And I get it at a certain size. When you have 30, 40 full-time employees, you can only give so much time. But at the very least, you should make people feel like you don't care. So ideally live by example. Like if I work hard, I want people to know that within my company. If I want everybody to over-communicate, I'll make sure that I over-communicate. If I don't want my staff to be emotional, if I want them instead to remain rational, then I make sure that my communication is also rational and over-communication, right? Pretty straightforward. Take the damn one-on-ones. This is one of the last points I really want to put at your heart here. I know it sucks, I know your time is valuable, but have one-on-ones every now and then with your staff. Even if they're not a senior executive, even if they're relatively new. A 30-minute one-on-one call while you're taking your frickin' daily walk goes a very, very long way for staff happiness, for staff longevity, to decrease the churn rate of your staff, and also have them perform well. I know the North Star of most of my employees, like almost every single one that is very important and crucial for this company. I know what exactly drives them, what their end goal is, what car they want to buy, which one of their family members is the most important to them, and so on and so forth. Because I want to know what drives them, what motivates them, because that has an effect on how I communicate with everybody. And last but not least, the general gist that we tell our clients nowadays in the time of AI, you're not going to be replaced by AI, but you're going to be replaced by someone who knows how to use it. So we actively encourage all of our staff members to look at AI tools that make their life easier. If someone finds an AI tool that automates 90% of the work, we congratulate them and we make sure that they can maintain a position in their job, potentially even get up into a higher position where they can crush it with AI. I got a great example. One of our appointment setters, he figured out, hey, appointment setting is probably going to be replaced by AI at some point. So he built an AI chatbot. He presented it to me and he said, basically, Max, I know this is going to replace my very job, but if you like this, we'll implement it, and we'll become partners with this AI stack system, at least with the part that handles the DMing, and we can even give it to your clients. And then I had a look at the AI. I loved it. We kept working on it. We kept refining it. And now we're not only using it on my own Instagram account, Max Torno Business Instagram and Real Max Torno Instagram. Those are literally AIs. Like if you have conversations with those, they're extremely realistic. They sound like me. They listen to voice messages. They can send you selfies back. It's incredible. And we're even giving this to our clients. So it's a great example of encouraging AI usage and really making sure that people don't feel scared by AI, but they actually see the value in it and they implement their own job, so they're doing a better job. That is basically it. That's an incredibly long-winded video for the fact that I'm only spending around 2 hours a day to work on my company. I hope you learned something. Hey, if you want to work directly with me, you want to have my one-on-one help to scale your company from 50K or 100K a month all the way to 500K a month and beyond, there's a link down in the description for you to apply a little bit of a basic information in that application about your business, about who you are, what your goals are, and then you can hop on a call with us and we can see if and how exactly we're a good fit. That being said, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Subscribe. Bye.